In case there's anybody out there who still doubts the fact that Donald Trump is by far the most corrupt president to ever hold that office, he pulled another gross public stunt today just to remind you. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, in case you've forgotten, Donald Trump launched a meme coin, a form of cryptocurrency to enrich himself right before he took the oath of office for his second term. And with all the other crap going on from the Trump administration, acts of corruption, lawlessness, authoritarianism, it's easy to forget that meme coin, again, just by itself, perhaps the greatest single act of financial corruption we've ever seen from a president. Well, here's the public stunt. So earlier today, Donald Trump puts out an all caps tweet or truth. I love $Trump. So cool. The greatest of them all. As Aaron Rupar points out, world historical grifting and corruption. Well, that tweet had a material impact on Trump's net worth. Again, the sitting president of the United States. As journalist Yashar Ali points out, Trump promoted his cryptocurrency this morning. His promotional post led to an immediate spike in the price. Yeah. Stunning. As Chris Murphy, senator for Connecticut, points out, profiting off the office by itself is so corrupt. But the buyers could be CEOs, Russian oligarchs, Saudi princes. We have no idea. It's all secret. That makes it the biggest corruption scandal in the history of the White House. And we all pretend like this is just normal? He's right. He's right. And I want to be so clear, because I understand sometimes pundits, commentators, we engage in hyperbole, but I want to be very clear. Donald Trump launching a meme cryptocurrency right before he takes office, continuing to promote it and not divest himself as he sits in that office. When you compare that with the lack of transparency and accountability, it is by far, objectively, infinitely more corrupt than anything you have ever heard about regarding Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. If you're a conservative or MAGA Republican out there, that act in and of itself from Trump is worth more than 10 Hunter Bidens, 10 Joe and Hunter Bidens. And so many MAGA Republicans don't care. They just don't care. Chris Murphy, since I mentioned him, the senator from Connecticut, and we're not going to watch the whole thing because it's 28 minutes long. It's worth your time, I assure you. But during a recent speech on the floor of the Senate, he gave a timeline of the first 6 weeks of the Trump administration and how corrupt it was. And he dove a bit deeper into the meme coin.
Steal from us. So this is a heartbreakingly long list. This is just 20 or so examples of corrupt behavior in the first 6 weeks of the Trump presidency. So here it goes. We're going to start on January 17th. On January 17th, Trump launches the meme coin. This is maybe the most corrupt of all the acts, because what is the meme coin? The meme coin is essentially a mechanism by which Russian oligarchs or corporate CEOs can literally send money privately directly to Donald Trump. Nobody knows who buys the meme coin, but Trump makes money when people buy it. And so it is just an open sewer valve that allows for anybody who is trying to influence the Trump administration to be able to secretly funnel money to Donald Trump. He reserves 80% of the coin. He waits to release that coin until the price jumps back up again, which essentially means he's waiting for people who want favors from him to buy a bunch of the coin to inflate the value so that he releases more and makes more money. It's a disgusting kind of corruption, because this is essentially Trump just posting his Venmo for anybody secretly to wire him as much money as they want. We've never seen something like this before, where anybody who has anything to gain from the Trump administration through a manipulation of the value of Trump's meme coin can funnel money directly to the president, whisper in his ear, that was me that purchased all that coin, that jumped up the value, that allowed you to release new coin. Hey, take care of me on the back end.
In a nutshell, this is an unprecedented display of corruption that, had a Democrat's name been attached to it, would have already prompted investigations, if not impeachment efforts. But because it's Donald Trump, they don't give a damn. You should give a damn. And you should hold it against Trump and the Republicans when the time comes at the ballot box, because you'd never accept it if it were a Democrat, and rightly so. It should be one standard for both parties and both sides of the aisle. There's an article from the Economic Times actually back in late January, actually, as a matter of fact, the day that Trump was inaugurated, or the day after, rather, talking about this. From the Financial Times, or the Economic Times, meme coins are a disaster in waiting, the Trump meme coin. As a European who doesn't own Bitcoin, I enjoy a bit of schadenfreude when the cryptocurrency industry is really upset about something. And the latest bout of outrage is a doozy. The virtual currency elites who saw Donald Trump as a crypto savior are now upset over his recent multi-billion-dollar Trump-branded meme coin sale. Investor Ari Paul called it, quote, fleecing people for billions. Former Trump associate Anthony Scaramucci said it was dictator-level corruption. Ex-Coinbase global executive Balaji Srivansan, I probably butchered that name, called it a lottery with no wealth creation. Of course, they're right to take a dim view of the Trump meme coin's blend of naked cash grab, MAGA cultism, and pump-and-dump tokenomics. Here's a man convicted of fraud whose idea of an 11th hour announcement before being sworn in as the world's most powerful person was to promote the flogging of 20% of a token with no intrinsic value, minting billions out of thin air and leaving the remaining 80% sat on by insiders. Melania, his wife, subsequent token launch, which coincided with a slide in her husband's coin, doesn't look much better. If stomach-churning price swings no longer scare us, the conflict of interest and cynicism should. What's to stop foreign powers tapping into this grift to reduce the risks of tariffs? Yet perhaps the crypto world's pivot against Trump speaks to deeper anxiety about the sustainability of the broader digital asset rally, which has seen Bitcoin's price gain more than 160% in 1 year amid wider institutional backing from the likes of BlackRock. And again, it goes on to the potential issues with Bitcoin. We'll skip to this paragraph. It's also rather convenient for crypto elites to suddenly display concern for the average punter when the Trump campaign showed little interest in prioritizing financial stability or consumer protection. Was the president's repeat sale of NFTs not enough of a clue? Or his support for the government holding Bitcoin, which would put taxpayers on the hook for an asset that's existed for less time than Pokemon cards? Or indeed the promise of friendlier regulation just as the courts rake through the debris of the 2022's $40 billion terror crash? $40 billion terror crash. Trump's stance has always suggested greater convergence between traditional finance and crypto, volatility be damned. Considering the interconnectedness of crypto markets and the impact of leverage on asset prices that can melt down as well as up, this means more systemic risk and bigger potential crises. So yes, this is just an act of flagrant corruption, and it's gone on, and so many of us, myself included, have just almost internalized it, right? Because there's a deluge of shit coming from the Trump administration, and yet he blows the dust off this to remind you that he is objectively, by far, the most corrupt president in the history of this country, promoting his own meme cryptocurrency while in office, financially benefiting from it directly, and as a result, we're seeing the price skyrocket. It's incredibly gross, textbook Trump, and the only question remains is that will people who claim on either side of the aisle, or people in between, Democrats, Republicans, independents, conservatives, progressives, libertarian, otherwise, people who claim to care about corruption and want to quash it, will they recognize it when it objectively exists in greater amounts and volatility with Donald Trump than any other politician? And will they stay true to their principles, call it out, and politically punish Trump and his associates, the Republican Party, for engaging in it? That remains to be seen, but we need to fight like hell politically to make sure that they accrue a political consequence for this corruption. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.